Konnichiwa. Wow. Sengboneni nyilanga. Konnichiwa. Nyazibongela bedinganga. Konnichiwa. Wow. Sengboneni nyilanga. Konnichiwa.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm actually quite impressed that you all made it so early in the morning. It shows that you are part of academia, and yeah, as soon as the sun comes out, you should be registering somewhere for a lecture. Yeah, as I said, my name is Conny Sethaelo. I'm the Director for Corporate Comms and Public Affairs for Nestle Eastern Southern Africa. So this is quite a large region made up of 23 countries. So we have quite a large footprint. Across, all the way to the islands, by the way. That's the only country people are ever interested in. So I'm just going to take you through what we do as Nestle, just top line. The rest we can always discuss when you get to the panel discussion. I forgot that I even have a... Okay. All right, maybe whilst he's helping me with the technology there, it's not my best, great. So I'll just quickly go through, we only have 10 minutes, so I'd love to go on for 45 minutes, but yeah, 10 minutes, I'll try to cover everything. How we do this as Nestle, and also just touching a bit on our creating shared value approach, and how we've picked localization lately to be one of our key drivers. And then also partnering with communities for better impact or sustainable and increased impact. So I'll go through those just quickly. So how we do it isn't that we focus on the whole farm to fork. I know it's quite a popular phrase that everyone always tries to bring up. But otherwise, it's just how we also make sure that we are present from the beginning of the value chain right across the end. And this is obviously in line with our purpose, which is unlocking the power of food to enhance the quality of life today, tomorrow, and generations to come, and for generations to come. So yes, it's not just about today, but what are we doing within our value chain that ensures that in the next 105 years, we'll still be in the Eastern Southern Africa region. And yes, it's a global purpose. However, we are able to localize it and make sure that we find the right proof points or we find the right initiatives that support our vision at a local level. So starting from agriculture, so of course we work with many partners, be it our farmers, where we come up with different programs to make sure that we enhance the way in which they do farming, the way in which they do sourcing of raw materials. So it goes across that. So raw material suppliers, we know that the qualities for multinational or quality expectations are always high. So how then do we make sure that within the African context, we are empowering and enabling those potential suppliers of Nestle to be able to get up to that quality level and be able to supply us with the raw material that we need to make the greatest products that we have. And then within manufacturing as well, we try to find the best ways in which we bring this to life. How are we making this in a way that is sustainable? How are we making sure that we're enhancing the quality of life in how we manufacture products? Packaging, which speaks to one of our focus or one of our key areas, caring for the planet, ensuring that by 2050 we have zero negative environmental impact. So what are those practices that we bring through? How are we making sure that there's compliance, and not just for compliance, but also just for thinking about the environment or protecting the environment for the many generations that we're saying we speak into? And in our logistics as well, how then do we store and deliver the products across the world? How do we then even much better deliver and move them around within ESA itself, or Eastern Southern Africa region itself? And then retail and business channels, how do we make sure that those products get to the shelf in a way that we want, or in the state that we want? And then our consumers, of course, and end of life for both products and packaging. Are we able to account for everything, every product that we put out there, every packaging material that we put out there? Are we able to say we know what exactly happened across the value chain in a way of circularity? And then, yes, it's a busy slide. Forgive me. I'll make sure that I only take 30 seconds on it. So we create shared value at a scale that makes a difference, right? So within our create shared value principles, we have 3 pillars, which is nutrition, which is quite close to my heart, and we'll speak to the different initiatives around nutrition as we go along. We speak to water, anything that has to do with water, because we're trying to protect the natural resources that are quite stuffed at the moment. We know what is happening now in South Africa with water, which is quite sad, but how then do we support as a corporate that's operating within the country or within the region? And then the last one is rural development, which speaks mainly to the initiatives that we have within the different communities. So yes, we have a lot of brands with purpose, and those are the ones that we support even more. As a brand, what are you doing within those key areas that shows that you're in support of that? As a brand, is your packaging material recyclable or reusable, things like that? Or as a brand, what are you doing for communities? You look at coffee, for instance, we have what we call the coffee plan. So we are saying, how are we supporting the women farmers that are planting or that are farming coffee and supplying it to ourselves? How many livelihoods are we touching to make sure that people don't go to bed hungry? And if they do manage not to go to bed hungry, how then do you make sure that it's not a once-off, or it's not just a PR campaign that happens within that year and the rest is done? How do we make that sustainable? So the different brands that we support or that we have always have to show an element of creating shared value within that. What is your purpose as a brand that serves the Eastern Southern Africa region? Okay, so then we have three key areas. I mentioned the nutrition, water, and rural development, but there's also other ways in which we're trying to bring these to life. And one of them that was chosen was just making sure that we scale up our localization efforts. We know the high unemployment rate in South Africa. We know that we have potential. We have quite rich land. We have quite a great environment that enables proper dairy farming. How are we doing to make sure that we do that? And also, who are we partnering with to assist with employment plans that will enable economic growth? Okay, so maybe just to bring it back home, since I mentioned localization, we know that we are quite a large coffee market or coffee country, right? We love it with milk. We have the different rows. There are those that prefer their normal classic, others prefer their gold, others prefer their Alta Rica, others prefer the Nespressos and all of that. But there's always a role of coffee within the region. And how are we making sure that we're tapping into that, and not just tapping in for the sake of profits or profitability, but rather to make sure that our people know what matters to the businesses, know what matters to the industry, and how then do they match up with that. So this actually, the understanding of the coffee consumption within the region led to us thinking, okay, what is the point of us importing cappuccino from the other areas? Why don't we make it ourselves? We have factories or manufacturing plants that have the capability to do this. We have the right quality of people that can give us the quality of coffee that we're getting from outside the country. So I think about 3 months ago, we started making our cappuccinos, Nestle cappuccinos, locally in our Babelegi factories in Hammanskraal. So it was quite a win. I mean, we had an investment of 79 million rands just to make that materializes. And quite interesting, now that we're coming just out of Women's Month, the project was led by 3 amazing women within the different functions, or what do they call it, that term, like engineering and all of that. It was not like women that are dusting the floor and whatever. We're talking serious involvement here, from initiation right through the deployment of the product. So it's been quite well. It created a few jobs as well, because it was not a new factory, it was just an extension of a plant to be able to bring this locally. What are we doing with that? This allows us to now source locally, which is great, both even our raw materials. Of course, not right away, but most of it is sourced locally, and then it's only the coffee itself that's still sourced from Brazil and Vietnam. But we believe that now that we've brought it closer, we'll be able to find initiatives that empower our farmers locally within our communities to be able to provide us or supply us with this in the near future. So this was quite interesting. So also going into what are we doing from communities, creating that employment, those employment opportunities. So this helps. Yes, it might have been 27 new jobs, but we're talking about more than 130 livelihoods that are being touched here. And I mean, in the current economic situation, being able to still do that shows that we still are invested in the region, and we know that South Africa has great potential, but how then do we make sure that we bring the best out of it, which is our existence, or the importance of our existence as corporate affairs and public affairs. Okay. So yeah, and now still talking about communities as well, just an interesting one. I will not be talking about all of them. I'm giving my other colleagues a chance here to share theirs, all right? So I spoke about localization, which is quite key for us. We continue to find ways in which we can localize most of what we do, especially given the right caliber of people that we have within the country or within the region. Then we have another project, which is quite interesting, where we're talking about realizing enabled and empowered African livelihoods. So this is where we adopted a community in KwaZulu-Natal. It's called Makoba. So they were moved out of their very rich land many moons ago, and now when everything had settled down, they demanded to be taken back, and this was done civilly and peacefully, and they were relocated back to an area that had nothing. They had to start from scratch. No schools, no infrastructure whatsoever. All that was left was old farms, which were great machinery. You know, old things are, antiques are always the best. So, so we took over that community, all with the intention of trying to make sure that they are reestablished, and also we're bringing things to them that are going to give them sustainable impact or have sustainable impact. It won't be a once-off, right? So we had different projects within that to start with, but the low-hanging fruit was supporting the dairy farm. So we did that all with the hope, all with the intention of making sure that they are able to have or breed cows or cattle that's able to give us the high quality of milk, helping those farmers with the right feeding techniques, helping them with the right agricultural techniques so that they produce the right grass for those cows. And then the quality of milk actually increased so much in that they are now our #1 milk suppliers. And the beautiful part is that they are still in the KwaZulu-Natal province, which is closest to our milk factories, kind of, if I may put it that way. So factories that require milk, now you have this farm that is almost down the road that can produce the high quality milk that many other farmers were producing over the years. But now this one is from home. There's a sense of pride, and you have that sense that says, we are back into our land, we are doing the most, we are working with multinationals, and they're not just caring about getting the milk out of us, but they're also worried about what then do we do with our kids. So we invested in almost 17 million rands every year to support even the maintenance of agriculture, promoting employability, driving entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship within that region. So this has worked quite well, which speaks nicely to what we call Nestle Needs Youth, right, with those 3 pillars. And we also still, to drive this further, in making sure that we at least having 1 million jobs created by 2030, we partner with an organization that's called All for Youth. So it's not just manufacturers, it's not just ourselves. There's Microsoft, there's Publicis. What are the opportunities that we're creating for youth out there? So this really helps. So as much as we are battling with profitability here and there and this and that, but at least we know that if we look back, we can say, here's a community that was started from scratch, here's where they are, now we can move out of that and go somewhere else. We know they'll still survive. We are still creating jobs for those that are working in the dairy farms. We are still bringing out those super skills that they have. So there's many projects within Makoba. I don't want to talk too much, but we can always chat later. But yes, this is just the one big project that we've had in the last 2 years that shows that you can have all the touch points and get all the benefits, not just farmers, but also the youth, not also security principles, also infrastructure development, where you have to start a training hall or training institute, get them registered, get them trainers, train them in how to do all of this, and also make sure that they are suppliers of key companies. For now, it might be Nestle, but we know that maybe, who knows, Leanne, they could be doing that on one day. So, yeah. Sorry. So I just like to play a video quickly just to give you nice view of what this Makoba now looks like. I wish we had pictures then. It was before my public affairs days. I was still making people lose weight while I'm battling with mine. But at least we have the after. You can have a picture of what we're talking about when we're saying impactful or meaningful contribution to society, which is sustainable. And we know that it'll be here even for the next 100 years and many others.
I'm standing here in the foothills of the Maluti Mountain, just off the R56 highway in KwaZulu-Natal. You see, the beauty of this land hides a long history of forced removal, resettlement, and the grim shadow of poverty and unemployment in one of the poorest provinces in the country. So the question for us as Nestle was, could we join forces with our partners to make a positive and sustainable difference for the people in this region by creating jobs, unlocking opportunity, and sharing skills, knowledge, and know-how. And by realizing empowered and enabled African livelihoods of our young farmers and entrepreneurs of tomorrow. And the big answer, as we soon realize, was yes. Yes stands for the Youth Employment Service. This is an innovative and an ambitious social upliftment program which is aimed at creating employment and employability opportunities meant to benefit the very people here on the Makoba farm, as well as everybody surrounding the Brickman Trade community. We launched this year's program.
But you get it, right? And those cows just nice and well fed. So we're back.
Old routine. Every day is a new day.